A very warm welcome to all our viewers clicking into this, our fourth broadcast of I'll Ask and Answer. This is a video Q&A series brought to you jointly as a public service, especially for our business community and for our citizens by the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce and the Isle of Wight County Economic Development Department. I'm Chris Morello, Director of Economic Development for the county, and joining me is Jessica Healy, President of the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce. Hi, Jessica.
Hey, how y'all doing?
So Jessica, with the governor's announcement and issuance of guidelines for phase one easing, we have been very interested to give folks a broadcast that really concentrates on providing our businesses and citizens through this format, how our local governments are approaching reopening of their public-facing operations.
Yes, Chris, that is correct. So tomorrow is a big day for a lot of folks, and as we move into our reopening, we're excited to have this Q&A today focusing on that particular subject. And somehow we managed to bring together all of our top administrative officials with the county and towns. So we have with us today our County Administrator, Randy Keaton, our Interim Town Manager for Windsor, Sandy Wanner, and our Smithfield Town Manager, Michael Stallings. Welcome, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to dive right on in here. So as everyone is aware, local government employees of Windsor, Smithfield, and Isle of Wight have all been working during the pandemic, but with the offices and facilities temporarily closed to the public. Can each of you just give an overview of what your locality's current plan is for our phase reopenings, especially what citizens can expect in the next several weeks? And Randy, we're going to start with you.
Okay. Well, first, we have a few offices that have never closed. So, for example, our clerk of court's office has still been operating open to the public by appointment only, and our court system has also been open for emergency hearings. So they have still been operating on a modified schedule. But starting on Saturday, we'll have the first public-facing facility that had been closed, which is the farmers market. They did operate on a modified schedule the last couple Saturdays as a drive-in market, but they'll be back in their normal location off of Main Street beginning Saturday under still a modified structure, but it'll look a lot more like it did last year than the drive-through market has looked. Following that, on Monday, May 18th, the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court and the General District Court will be back open to the public. Again, on a modified basis, but they will be open for hearings and the normal business. Starting May 26th, we'll have the Treasurer and the Commissioner of the Revenue's offices will be open, because tax bills just went out, and we want to be able to accommodate the public who wants to come to the office and pay directly, especially those with cash. That will be open. We'll have all of the cleaning procedures in place, the social distancing. We're encouraging people to wear face masks. So we're trying to be as safe as possible, yet accommodate citizens who really need to come do business in person. That same day, our tourism office will also open again to the public, with the businesses and shops on Main Street opening up for business. We want to provide the services to them and to the public who are starting to come out and move about town. And then following that, we'll look at opening other offices on a modified schedule. We want to test these areas. We still have been providing services through mail, phone, email, and it's been very successful in some areas, especially in our planning and zoning department, central permitting. They have a place for contractors to drop off plans, and then they get the plans, they communicate with them. So it's been very successful. So we've been very happy with that.
All right, thank you, Randy. Let's move on to the town of Windsor. How are you all approaching this reopening?
We're going to continue the closure of our public buildings, mainly town hall. The citizens have been great. They've been using the Dropbox for payments. They've been doing things online, phone, or by mail. And I can't speak highly enough of the citizen response to the situation. Our Windsor Town Center is closed, and right now we're doing some acoustical panel replacement in the town center to make it more user-friendly in the future. But as we move into through phase one, I don't see much change in opening our facilities. We're very limited with facilities anyway. And we try, where practical, to follow what Isle of Wight is doing in similar situations. And of course, the courtship that serve us are in Isle of Wight and the sheriff's office. We do have a police department that is still very active in doing their work. And you can knock on the door of the police station if you have a requirement to see them in person. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandy. Okay, Michael, what's going on with the town of Smithfield?
We're much like Windsor. Currently, our offices are still closed, and we anticipate them staying closed until closer to the end of phase 2 or the beginning of phase 3. Based off the current timelines right now, that looks like June. But we'll watch it, and if things change between now and then, we'll adjust. Again, same thing as everybody else. We're doing a lot of electronic payments, payments by mail, permit submissions through email, and all of that's working pretty well. And I echo the comments that Sandy made about the citizens and how wonderful they've been to work with and accommodating given these situations. So again, right now we're remaining closed to the public until late phase 2, early phase 3, probably the end of June.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Next question has to do with our public meetings for each of the jurisdictions. You know, COVID-19 profoundly affected public meetings, and it's altered really how our elected bodies interact with the citizens. So what we're curious about is, when do you think that the general public would be able to attend our public meetings as normal before COVID-19? And are there plans to phase that in some way? And I guess, why don't we go backwards this time and start with Michael?
Yes, sir. The town council in Smithfield has continued to have in-person meetings, and the public is still able to attend those meetings. We just are doing more social distancing practices. We've been at the Smithfield Center still. Council is spaced out as well as staff, and then we have seating available in the main hall of the Smithfield Center to provide seating for the public. We have suspended the public comment phase of our agenda to try to limit some of that interaction. However, the citizens are still encouraged that if they want to provide comments, they can do it electronically, they can do it by mail. So they still have the ability to communicate with council. It's just not in that one-on-one setting that it used to be, but they can still attend meetings. They just are further separated from the council than they used to be.
How about you, Sandy? How about Windsor?
Well, we had a council meeting Tuesday night through Zoom, and we actually had citizens attend the meeting through Zoom as well. I don't see us going to meetings where the public will be in the council chambers until probably late phase 2, maybe early phase 3. But when we do open it back up, we will have, again, social distancing. We also are providing the opportunity to communicate to the council through email, mail, whatever the case may be. And on May 26th, we're having the public hearing on our budget. It'll be, again, available on Zoom, public comment, and other ways to make sure that people are involved in their local government. But I do not see us going back to the attendance of the public for a reasonable period of time.
Okay. Randy?
Well, we've continued in-person meeting, much like Smithfield. We have tried to limit the meetings to just the board members and essential staff to try to keep it to approximately 10 people or less. We did have, when we had our budget here and we did allow the public to come in and make comments in person, we only had one person come, but our intent was if we had more than that, we would have one person at a time come in, and they would leave and another person would come in. But it just, we didn't have any more than the one person show up. So for public hearings, we've allowed the public to come in. Otherwise, we've restricted to no public attending. They can make comments, of course. We have a special email line set up so that people can send in comments, especially public comments on public hearings. we leave the public hearings open until midnight, the night of the meeting, so we can continue to receive those comments before the board takes action on that topic. But otherwise, we don't anticipate, we haven't set a date for going back to normal operations yet. And quite frankly, I think we would need to get further along in the process before the board would consider that.
Right.
All right, thank y'all so much. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit here and talk about some funding. So earlier this week, we learned that the state will be transferring $3.2 million from the Federal CARES Act to Isle of Wight County, and it's based on our population to help offset expenditures related to this health crisis. Are there any other details that you would like the residents and community to understand about the potential use of this money? And I will start with you, Randy.
Well, the money has a lot of strength attached, and basically it has to be for items that we wouldn't normally have had in our budget. For example, all of the additional cleaning supplies we've had to purchase for the COVID-19, the personal protective equipment for our staff, the protective barriers we're erecting, to keep the public and our staff safe. Also, for any overtime cost, or we've also had this emergency health leave. We have a few people have taken that. So really any extra cost over and above our normal operations. It can't be used for revenue replacement. It can't be used for things that we'd already had in our budget. So we're going to take a very conservative approach to this. We don't want to get creative and try to just spend it because we have it. It should only be spent for those items that we would not ordinarily have spent money on if it were not for this pandemic crisis. Now, we will also be, based on the per capita amount, sharing that with the two towns. The total amount is roughly $3.2 million. I think Smithfield's share is around, I believe, $745,000, and Windsor's was 220 some thousand, I believe. So it leaves the county with about 2.2 million after the town's portions. And that money can also be spent with the school system if they have needs. Now, they also have a direct allocation of money, but then our portion can also be spent on projects that they need reimbursement for.
All right, thank you. Sandy or Michael, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I reviewed the rules. The rules are rather stringent. There's a list of thou shalt not, as well as here are the things that are eligible. We did not spend a lot of public monies because of the COVID-19. So our reimbursements are going to be very small compared to the monies that we could possibly get. We did not have as many of the issues that the larger county has, or even when I was in Smithfield before. So it's not going to be a lot of new revenue coming back into Windsor.
Yeah, I'd echo what Sandy said. It sounds like there's a lot of money available. However, the strings on it are fairly tight. So what we have eligible that we can be reimbursed for is not a large sum of money. But as Randy said, we're still evaluating that and looking to see what possibilities are out there.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Randy.
One other thing, the money has to be spent by December 31st. So we receive it now. We'll actually receive the first part of June. So, and then the money can be used to reimburse us for anything spent, I think, from March 1st up until this point in time, and then through December 31st. So any money is not spent by December 31st will go back to the state and then ultimately to the federal government.
So I know we don't have boards of election with us today, but still I think it is on folks' mind about elections. So let's switch to some discussion, a little bit of discussion on that. And we'd start with Smithfield and Michael, because we know that your May election has been postponed, right? And so if I'm not mistaken, of the jurisdictions, yours will be the first to have elections.
Yes, sir. Our elections originally were scheduled for May 5th, and they've been rescheduled to May 19th. They still will be held at the Smithfield Center, and citizens can still come vote in person. There was a lot of work done ahead of time to encourage absentee ballots and absentee voting. Thank you, Sandy, for that. He arranged that before he left. So in-person voting will be managed in a way that provides for a safe and successful election. We've been working with the registrar to ensure that she has everything she needs to do that. Only a limited number of people will be allowed in the building at any given time, and we will have people there to help assist in that. They will be marking lines on the ground, both inside and outside the building, to make sure that social distancing happens. There'll be hand sanitizer available for people as they approach the voting tables. All of the voters, all of the staff working the polls will have the appropriate PPE, and voters are encouraged to wear masks if they have one when they enter the building to help keep everybody safe. So again, we're working with the registrar's office to make sure we have a successful election on the 19th.
So Sandy and Randy, how would you all address that question about elections for the citizenry?
Well, we don't have obviously we don't have a spring election in Windsor, but more importantly, there's a primary coming up on June 23rd, which will be at the Windsor Town Center. And we are already getting in sync with the Isle of Wight registrar and the staff person from Isle of Wight Parks and Rec who's at the Windsor Center to make sure that we have the Windsor Town Center prepared with the appropriate sanitizers and things of that type, and that we will follow hopefully the successful rollout that Michael's going to be doing in Smithfield. We're going to learn from that for June as well. Isle of Wight will and Smithfield will again, but it's the best you can do under this situation is have the public prepared to wear a mask, make sure your poll workers and your election officials are protected, and make sure that you're doing proper social distancing.
Like Windsor, we don't have an election either, but our registrar, of course, is working with Smithfield for their town elections coming up, and then, as Sandy said, for the primary election. So we're working, like I say, with the registrar to make sure she has all of the protective equipment she needs, and also for the poll workers, because those are really the critical piece of the puzzle in conducting a successful election.
Great.
Thank y'all so much. It's really great to hear that Smithfield will still be able to come out and vote as regularly, scheduled if folks did not want to do the absentee option. So that's really great to hear that that's still going forward. So throughout today's conversations, we have talked a whole lot about how we're serving our community virtually through, online payments, things like that, email, whatnot. And just from the Chamber's perspective, I know that we've been pushing a lot of our services virtually as well. And with talking with the businesses, so are they, and they're converting a lot of their services to a virtual platforms and may even consider that going forward. With regards to, our government services with our town and county, we have kind of been forced to change the way we do things. So my question is, with all of, now our virtual technology, with being able to serve our customers and get them used to that and our citizens, are you thinking about keeping that a part of your policy and procedure going forward with the towns and county? And who would like to go first with that answer?
Let me jump in. Like I said, Tuesday night was my first council meeting with Zoom. And I think the technologies, the virtual platforms are here to stay. What I also think we've learned is we're going to have to be more sensitive to keeping our offices and places clean. So I think there's going to be a whole new thrust on cleanliness. There used to be the big thrust on saving energy. Cleanliness is going to be the next big thing. And again, I think the social distancing is going to be in people's mindset now. So I think you're going to see more awareness of individuals when someone is coughing or sneezing or a child gets sick somewhere. So I think there's a whole new mindset of how you're going to interact, not only in the public facilities, but also in other facilities that serve the community.
And I think we've seen obviously a more heavy reliance on the electronic payments of electronic communications, and I think that will stay. Another thing we've discussed is, especially as we initially start to open, is having more of the by appointment only kind of interactions, especially planning and zoning, things of that nature. Treasurer's office will be different because they have to take payments as people come in the door, but otherwise I think we'll be a little more stringent and try to do the appointment as only type of meetings. Otherwise, I think we'll have to adjust as we move forward. But like Sandy said, the electronic participation, the electronic platforms, I think they're going to be part of what we do a lot in the future.
I agree. I think, we all spend a lot of time traveling to meetings, and this method of meeting virtually and meeting by electronics is going to save a lot of money and save a lot of time spent in traveling around the region or even the state. One of the things that we're most excited about that we've seen is the ability to do inspections by remote using a camera phone. So they've been using, our inspections department's been using Google Duo, and has allowed them, the contractor, to use his phone, show the inspector different things on the job site, and the inspector can actually literally approve it sitting in their office. So that's going to cut down the amount of time, because Isle of Wight County is a large county to travel across, and if you're if you can save 30 minutes each way going to the appointment, you can get a lot more work done in one day. So that's one of the things I think we'll see staying in place for certain things. Now, obviously, there are certain tasks that need to be done in person, but for smaller jobs, I believe that'll be something to stay in place.
Great. Well, and so jumping off from that point where we're talking about local government functions in this changing world, one of the things that I think folks are very interested in trying to understand, particularly as we move into the easing phases, is how local governments hold a role and a responsibility, particularly with law enforcement agencies, for enforcing regulations and restrictions that have to do with these phases. I can imagine that many people are maybe a little bit confused about that, because there are phases and perhaps there's differences, but each of you probably has a great perspective on what citizens need to know about who really has responsibility for enforcing these phase regulations. Why don't we go ahead and start with Randy, if that's all right.
Well, the Sheriff's Department, of course, is responsible for enforcing all laws in the county, and this is no different. But at the same time, this is a unique situation that we've never had to deal with before, as far as trying to, let's say, break up a social gathering. That's not a normal practice that they would normally participate in. So I think a lot of it, they've been trying to use education and try to help people understand that it's better to social distance. They need it for safety purposes. But it does put them in an awkward situation. And I think discretion is what all law enforcement agencies are trying to do, and try to encourage through education to help people rather than the heavy-handed enforcement method.
I agree with Randy. First of all, a couple of state agencies also have some roles to play. Now with the loosening up of outdoor dining, and if you're going to serve alcoholic beverages, there's a whole set of requirements by the ABC authority, and they would be enforcing, I suspect, some complaints that they would hear regarding how a dining facility is not operating properly. The Department of Health still has a number of duties to perform in this era. And I agree also with Randy. The police department is not out there to heavy-handed break up gatherings. They're there to say, we want to make you aware. And I don't know whether you watch TV every morning, but you watch the mounted patrols from Virginia Beach patrolling the beachfront of Virginia Beach, making sure that no one is sunbathing. Again, it's the visual there. But again, the police, if they get a report, and I will tell you of a case I had when I was with Smithfield a few months ago. A citizen called the mayor to complain about a large gathering on the golf course. I in turn then called the golf course manager and encouraged him to get the word out to try to avoid large gatherings for a tournament. Stick to your golf cart and don't get with another 30 at a time.
And I think the biggest thing, and all of us probably agree with this, is right now it's our role to help the businesses in reopening in a manner that's safe for both their staff as well as the citizens. And as Randy said, a lot of that's education. The executive orders and guidance coming out from the governor's office isn't always the clearest and the easiest to follow. Sometimes there's a lot of interpretation that goes into that. And I think it's our role to help them understand that and do as much as we can to do the education piece. We all understand the tremendous hardship that's been placed on our businesses throughout this event. And we want to make sure that we do everything in our power to keep them alive and help them be successful, and be flexible and help them adapt to the changing guidelines. We need to be a, how can we help you do that? And a, no, you can't do that, kind of environment right now. So I think the approach we have is to be as flexible as possible and try to help them find ways to do things that will help them stay in business.
I agree.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting over this next, sorry about that, little phone ring. It's definitely going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks as we see our businesses that have definitely, been closed for a couple of months now, open back up, and how they handle the influx of customers, because everyone is just itching to get out. And tomorrow I think will be definitely a big day, especially in downtown Smithfield, as a lot of the main street merchants are going to be opening. So thank you all so much for everything you're doing to help these businesses and keep them going during this time. So as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask each of you if there's anything else you would like to talk about in respects to your towns or in the county, and that citizens need to know going forward. And Michael, we'll start with you for Smithfield.
The biggest thing is this: we're here to help the citizens and the business through this time. We understand that, like I said before, this has put some hardship on all the businesses as well as citizens. It's changed our everyday lives. And unfortunately, I think it'll be a while before we ever get back to what we used to consider normal. So we're here to help, and anything we can do within our powers to assist either businesses or citizens, we want to do that. Biggest thing is the education. So as soon as we get information and we can put it out to the public, we're trying to do that through our normal social media, electronic means, through the website. So just know that we're here, and we're here to help. So if we can do anything, just let us know.
Thank you. How about you, Sandy? Any additional comments for Windsor?
Well, I agree with Michael's comments. And of course, the citizen gets a newspaper, if they're still in the media, that in the print, or they hear something from a neighbor, or they see something on TV, and they get confused messages coming from a variety of different sources. If you have a question, give us a call, and we'll try to get to the right answer in the right time.
I'm next.
Yeah, sorry.
I would just like to say that this is unprecedented for all of us, and I don't think anything we've ever had to deal with, even natural disasters, has prepared anyone for what we're dealing with now. So it's I'd ask all the citizens to be patient. We're learning as we go along. We're learning from each other, and just because something happens today doesn't mean we won't change to do something different the next day as we learn a better way to do that. So we're all in this together. As Michael and Sandy said, we're here to help people. We don't want to be a hindrance, but at the same time, we want to keep people safe. So let's all just be flexible and work together as we go forward. The next few months, we don't know. None of us knew we would be in this situation today a few months ago, and we don't know where we'll be a few months from now. So let's just all work together.
And we may find that we would want to reconvene you if we're lucky enough, fortunate enough to do that again in the future. When Jessica and I started this collaboration, it was essentially aimed and focused for our business community. But we found that when having posted it to social media and more folks were clicking in and viewing it, that we thought this might be a great format to at least pivot this time for you all to let us and our citizens know your perspectives on this phase of doing public business and going forward. So we're super grateful that you took the time that you did today, that we could get you together at the same time. We are certainly, Jessica and I, on the Chamber of Commerce and the Isle of Wight Economic Development web pages, will be posting this recorded and posting the links to the recording in all of our social media. We would invite you, if you would like to too, we can forward to you the link as well if you'd like to do that and have that on your social media and your web pages. Please feel welcome to do that. And I guess with that, Jessica, if there's any final thought from you?
Yeah, I was just very excited for today's Q&A because, just from chamber side and being very involved with our businesses, there's just so much hope in the air right now as we go towards our reopening tomorrow. It's a big day, and I know this would be extremely helpful in just getting folks to prepare of what to expect as we move forward. So as Chris said, thank you again for joining us. I'm so excited we got all three of you together. I know that was hard as our schedules are super busy. Yeah, we definitely, as we move through these phases, would like to get back up with everyone and get an update on where we stand, maybe as we go through phase 2. So again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Have a good day. See you.
All right, bye.